Welcome to Impact Farming, where we introduce you to the people and ideas that will have a massive impact on your farming operation. Brought to you by Farm Marketer. Sit down, start the engine, and let's roll with today's show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Farming Show. Today, I have a returning and amazing guest, Patti Durand. How are you?
I am thrilled to be back. Thank you.
I am so excited to be chatting with you, having you back on the show to talk about, I would say, both of our favorite subjects, transition planning and your beautiful book here, The Future Leader. I have had you on the show a few times about succession, transition planning. We've chatted about your book. Today, we're going to be diving into chapter 3, and I'm excited about this one. Common incorrect assumptions about succession planning. So before we dive in, do you want to share a little bit more about who you are, what you do with our audience, and then we'll just dive right in?
Absolutely. Thank you. I am based out of Humboldt, Saskatchewan. My husband and I moved here temporarily in the spring of '97, so it is home. We are longtime entrepreneurs with a background in agriculture, though we've never actually actively farmed ourselves. My resume looks kind of convoluted because it was ultimately driven by our ability to stay home with our two daughters who are now adults, and so we're empty nesters. The convoluted path came together when I was co-leader of a pilot at Farm Credit Canada in advisory services in helping families who were attempting or feeling stuck in succession. And in that time, over a 5-year period, I worked with over 350 business families, largely in Saskatchewan, but across Canada. And it brought together, I had some finance background, marketing, family dynamics, but ultimately it's the facilitation and coaching skills that really were at that table. Because of that role and trying to understand what would be most helpful, I became a student of what helps people take action in transition. And I witnessed patterns and we're seeing things. So when my time with FCC was done, I have my own consulting firm now, Bright Track. And my first mission was to be a champion for the successor and hold them capable. There were several things I wish they knew, and they proved to me on repeat that there was missing some understanding, though it was not lack of intelligence or care, it was just misinterpretation. And so The Future Leader was the outcome. So I wrote that book last year. It was published. It is in the hands of hundreds of business families now and educational institutions and advisors. And I'm super happy to talk about it.
I love it. And I love this book. And I said this a few times in previous episodes. I've been doing episodes for 7 years, going on season 8. And the whole time, I know, super exciting. The whole time, transition has been on my mind and my heart. And that's the reason, the deep, deep reason for the show. The whole time I've been doing this, I'm like, we need this. I'm like, somebody needs to write this. I wanted to write it, but I didn't want to write it. And then when you wrote it, I'm like, yes, because for me, I've seen a lot of disconnect, and it almost feels like farm families chasing themselves in a vicious circle. And you and I both, I think, really focusing on that successor, right? Because they need to have a roadmap, some steps, some empowerment. How do you navigate that family role? It's a bit of a can of worms, right?
Well, and I think that the overarching pattern that has been replicated and I think worked historically, but really isn't working anymore, is that the successor, by and large, is told, work hard and wait and trust us.
Yeah.
And that works until it doesn't. It creates these operationally sound successors who are missing key pieces of understanding leadership, communication, and managing and working with people that really leaves them at a disadvantage when it's time to take the reins, no matter when that is. And so my thought is like, what if we could influence and help with this understanding at a younger age, as young as 15, as young as 20, 25, uh, the feedback coming from the book, like people are like, oh my gosh, I am using this. Like I'm applying it in my life. I'm applying it in my business. I'm applying it on this board that I'm sitting on. These are great leadership concepts. And I just want to put it in their hands and let them run with it.
I love it. So you launched the book. I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about some of the feedback you've been getting. You've been launching the book, speaking across Canada, getting it out there. You're getting it in the hands of university students, which is really exciting to hear. You mentioned a little bit, but what is some of the feedback or favorite chapters? What's some feedback you're
Yeah.
getting?
It's quite interesting, actually. So, number one, uh, because I wrote it as a business fable, so it is a story about the two characters, Jordan and Kelly, but I write about some hard topics. It is not directive. And so people have said, hey, that's like hard stuff, but it feels safe. And
Mm,
so that's really important because we need to go there. You can't go around the stuff. You got to go through it.
yeah.
But to be able to get there, there needs a certain level of permission. So that was number one. People said, oh, like that's hard stuff, but it's safe.
Yes.
Number two, um, anybody who is who was a successor, who maybe is the senior person now, they're like, where was this book 20 years ago? Where was this book 30 years ago? They're like, there was one comment they said, and in this case, it was an example where the transition hadn't gone well and they opted to part ways. But they said that I now understand that there wasn't something wrong with us. That maybe it had we some coaching and some better skills for communication, that this might have been possible. So it
Wow.
breaks my heart to know that they didn't know that before now, but it gives me hope that I can give people shine a light on some possibilities from now moving forward.
I love it. Okay, one more question I have been
Huh.
dying to ask you. Do you have a favorite chapter? I asked a previous
Oh,
author. I asked another author I interviewed about their favorite chapter of their own book. And I know it's like picking a favorite child, and you maybe don't want to or can't, but do you have a favorite?
you know what? There is one spot that so I it's also on Audible. It's an audiobook as well. And so I'm literally listening to my own voice reading it. But each time I read the note from Jordan's dad to Jordan, the letter, the note of apology, and the note of accountability, and the desire to do better, it gives me chills.
Mm,
We can take care of each other. When we know we've hurt someone, we can come back and we can fix it and we can put our arms around it. And it's possible. And I think so often people don't have the words. And so um, that would be a favorite spot.
oh, Patty, you're making me tear up. And where you're like 10 minutes in. Normally, this is towards the end of all our other episodes. But you know what? I think you and I just share that mutual passion for the family farm and also realizing, okay, the technical skills are over here, but I have seen transition planning not happen in so many farm families, near and dear to my heart, and friends, family, community. And truly, I think it's as simple, air quotes for people that aren't watching, it's as simple as a communication plan and a roadmap. And you know
Mm-hmm.
how many, mm, I get frustrated and passionate all at once. You know how many farm families could be saved by having a roadmap, having the words, having some steps to help them plan? I just think,
I do. That's
you know,
that's why the book was so important. Is I can't physically sit in front of thousands of families. I
yeah,
can't physically connect with that many people. And I'm going to say that it's about preserving relationships. And truly, it might not be about preserving the business. Not every business is meant for continuity. Not every business is robust enough or strong enough to be able to succeed to the next generation. That's okay. But our relationships with each other don't have to be the cost.
mm,
Both of those things can be true, and it's okay, and it's worth it.
mm, I love it. Okay, one more thing. and I know we have previous episodes, and I'll link them all in the show notes. So people, when they love this episode of you today, they can go and binge watch the other ones we've done. Do you want to give listeners, viewers, a quick snapshot of what is in this book? And if they are looking to take over the family farm, what they can
Sure.
learn in here? And then we'll dive in.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this is the book I wish I'd had to be able to give to people, to successors in particular, but actually families. I'm finding senior generation is really appreciating the book as well in terms of
Nice.
their insights into what their successor might be thinking. But the book itself is literally everything I wish successors knew, but I had ample evidence on repeat that they were missing key pieces of understanding. And the assumptions we're going to talk about today are a very relevant part of that. Like, let's level set and truth some things that are misunderstood, and then give a general lay of the land. So it's a mile wide and an inch deep. It covers a super broad number of topics, everything from family communication to how does credit work, to the concept of family meetings, to understanding the business history. It's very broad. My hope is that it will prompt them to want to dig deeper into any one of the topics. Every single chapter, there are multiple books, I would say, in the marketplace available that you could go deeper, but there isn't an introduction. And it's a really big leap to just go straight to the more sophisticated content. This is a safe place to start. So that's one thing. The other thing I would say is, who wants to read a textbook? Honestly, not me. I have to do it sometimes, but I wrote this set up as a business fable, meaning there's two characters and you're interacting of the story of Jordan and Kelly, the mentor and the mentee, Jordan, who is a successor. There's two important things. Number one, I do not mention agriculture once. This is the interaction of family business and family dynamics.
Yeah.
And the industry is irrelevant, though every single farmer who has read it has seen themselves, but so have hardware store owners, and so have manufacturers. And so that was really key in drilling down on what the purpose was. The other thing is that Jordan and Kelly, I chose not to specify genders for them. So if Kelly is a male or female, you get to pick. Same thing with Jordan. My concern is that someone might read this and say, oh, well, that's for men, or oh, that's for women. No. This stuff doesn't play favorites. This is a human condition, specifically in family business. And so one of the favorite things that has happened is that people come back to me. I will always ask them, I said, is Jordan, what do you think they are? What are the Jordan and Kelly genders? And they'll be like, well, obviously it's two men. And the next person, obviously it's two women. And any combination of those, which hit the nail on the head, because I'm like, I don't want this book to be limited and pigeonholed. It is too important of a message to lose traction because of that.
Funny. Jordan was a male, Kelly was a female for
in
me.
Your head.
Yeah, in my head when I was reading it. I didn't even think, it just naturally flowed that way.
Mm-hmm. And I've sincerely, I've heard all. I've heard that obviously it's two women, obviously it's two men. Once people get permission, I instruct them at the beginning of the book, you get to pick if it matters to you.
Yeah.
And so it allows people to read the story without me wagging my finger at them and saying, come on, Tracy, do better. You can see yourself in this story, and so it's personal but safe. That combination, it's so important. I really don't want this to be limited by tripping on something like that.
I said that in our last episode together, and I always call it the wrong name. I'm so embarrassed. I call it a parable all the time. It's fable. Fable.
You get to call it whatever you want.
Okay, there we go. I've read a few powerful fable books, and you are right. It packs a punch, but it takes the sting out of it, and it delivers a ton of really powerful information in a very easy to consume format. And that's what I love about this, because you're right. I mean, there are some succession transition planning books that are very technical, very good, very well written, but it can get a little bit dry. This is like reading about two people and their story, right? I love it. Totally. You've done a great job.
I appreciate it. I had a great editor as well, I'll say. I made sure that this is a good quality piece of writing. it's important that there isn't anything that people can trip on. And we need to get to the point.
I love it. Okay, now that we are all caught up and you've answered what was on my mind about how the book's going, what people are finding, your favorite chapter, let's dive in. So, chapter 3, I have it earmarked. We have them picked out. You have multiple. I picked my 5 favorite. Let's start with, I think this one sets a stage. Our family must carefully plan for our business transition from one generation to the next. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah. So people make this assumption largely because that is what we in the advisor industry have been saying on repeat for decades. You got to have a plan. Do you have a plan? It's in the census. It's repeated. It's like, and the accountants are saying it, and the lawyers are saying it, and all of these gotta. However, I think that people neglect to recognize that your transition will happen whether you plan for it or not.
Yeah.
Time marches on, it waits for no one. And so the reality is that planning for transition is an opportunity to steer and direct what the eventual outcomes are more likely to be. But things happen. People are born, people die. The transition, the transfer eventually will happen. But what would you like it to look like? And do you want to have a voice in that? It's your call.
I love it. Okay, next one is a little more technical. Our current professional advisors will have the technical experience, expertise that we need. Do you want to touch on that? I think that's an important one.
You know what? This is really commonly misunderstood. I think that, and I will say I myself over time have developed a better appreciation for this. So the equivalent, I would say, of your accountant who's working with you in terms of your annual income tax and financial statements and those processes, or your lawyer who is really, really well suited in terms of mortgage transactions or perhaps putting a basic will in place, is not necessarily the same as someone who has the robust knowledge for this really technical expertise in terms of transition around structure, around developing agreements, around negotiating and mediating, around the tax implications. So the parallel I make is that you would not go to your family doctor and expect that they would conduct brain surgery. You would automatically understand and know, yeah, we need a specialist for this.
Yes.
It's very similar. It'd be very rare to have a family doctor that would have any type of deep specialty. They tend to be generalists. Accountants and lawyers tend to be generalists that are serving us on a regular basis. And so if you fail to ask, more likely, if you're waiting for them to ask and it's not their expertise, it can kind of create this holding pattern. They're like, yeah, our accountant never brought it up. It's like, well, it's not their expertise. Simultaneously, it is a great practice. Go to your lawyer or accountant. Don't assume that they're not evil, but ask them, say, here's what we have in mind for the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to need some help in navigating this. Is this type of work you do, or do you have a team member that does it, or would you refer us to someone? You're not leaving them necessarily. This isn't about a breakup. It's like, who will serve us our needs in this time? Once you're done your brain surgery, you come back to your family doctor. It's not dissimilar. So it's a pretty good analogy, and it's commonly misunderstood.
I love it. For individuals that maybe have their professional, they want to talk to them, somebody that doesn't have a professional, I shared CAFA, Canadian Association of Farm Advisors. Is that where you would direct somebody to find a professional?
Yeah, and I'm a member of them myself.
Okay.
That's a really important network for me to be able to have access to people who have different areas of expertise. So that way I don't have to know every answer. I know, but I know where to find it. CAFA is an excellent organization for that. Another rule of thumb in terms of finding someone, I would say consulting with peer groups is really helpful. So who are your neighbors and friends that you trust and feel like you maybe are in the same boat? Hey, do you have anybody? Who do you work with? Another suggestion is to talk to other trusted advisors. So for example, if you have an accountant that's able to accommodate what you're doing, what lawyers do you typically work with in this process? If they have a pre-existing relationship, that can be a real leg up and save a bunch of back and forth in terms of building trust amongst them. I mean, they're going to be professional if they don't know each other, but what will shorten the time it takes to get there? Because this is hard enough already. We don't need to stretch it out.
Okay, perfect. Okay, here is my favorite one. This is the one I've been waiting for, and I think this is the biggest assumption of them all. My parents have a plan for transitioning the business to me, which they will reveal when the time comes. Please share your thoughts.
Oof. It gives me chills, Tracy. It worries me
Yeah.
because we tend to trust our parents. And I will say, so differently than my parents have a plan for transitioning the business, I would say my parents have the intention for transitioning the business. And just like you heard the analogy, hope is not a plan, intention is also not a plan. And so having good intentions and like, just trust us, this will all be yours one day, or just trust us, we're going to figure this out, creates um, a really vulnerable place for families. So when you say that saying, go back to that saying, hope without a plan, or hope is not a plan, I would also say hope without a plan degrades trust. So I've certainly sat with families in which the successor has been there for probably decades, and they suddenly become aware that the parents actually don't have a specific plan. The level of vulnerability and how much hope can be destroyed in that moment, we got to do better. We have to find a way. And so I think that one way to reveal it or to speak more openly about it is we have this intention, but we don't know how it's going to work.
Love it.
Own that. Say, we really do intend to do this, but we don't know exactly how it's going to work. And then reality is that we can invite the successor to that conversation. They're the ones, and other heirs potentially as well, other stakeholders. And I mean, there's different conversations and scripts that are actually in the book that you can dig into to unpack those conversations. But if you were to involve the next generation in creating the plan that they're going to have to live with anyway, imagine how much more creativity could be at the table. Imagine how much more ownership and desire and understanding and common vision could really make it so the parents don't have to do this in isolation. Why would they?
Oh, you word everything so powerfully and so kindly. I jump in there a little bit because I
Please.
think this for me is one of the biggest ones, and I've seen it. I've seen it happen, and I be vague in when I talk about this, but families around me and observing an age and going through the conversation or no conversation and just learning and realizing after family is saying, just trust us, there's a plan.
Yeah.
And then you leave it because you don't want to push it, right?
Yeah.
And then how easy is it for 1 year, 5 year, 10 years to go by? Nothing's happening. It's very easy. You're busy on the farm. And then
Oh my
another
gosh.
year
Yeah.
goes by. And then a decade goes by or 20 years, and you're like, oh my goodness, nothing's happening. And if there's
Yes.
nothing, I have realized more as you get a little bit up there in years, you don't get those years back,
You really don't. And
right?
this will take longer than most people think.
Yeah.
This is some deep brain thought. It's reflection, it's analysis, it's assessment, and ultimately it's a plan that's written in pencil because things change. And so it's not a matter of, um, uh, I, I will say, people say, like, when should we start planning? I said, well, when you start the business is the first best day, and today is the next best day. I have not run into someone who started planning too early. I absolutely am honestly tired of sitting down at tables where people are really late to the table, really late to the game. And the options are really narrowed down. The choices become made for you.
Yeah.
We can do better.
I danced around that a little bit because I try and be respectful. Uh,
Completely.
no, right? This is a very delicate subject, but I want to just step a little bit deeper and make
Okay.
this point because I think there is so many people, so many farm children that waste a lot of time And then when they actually get there, they trust the parents. And I'm really digging deep on this one, Patty, because I think this is the root of it all. And they're scared to bring it up because they don't want to
Yeah.
tick mom and dad off. They don't want to feel like they are entitled or greedy. They don't have the answers. But I think for me, empowering the second
Yeah.
generation with the tools to bring the conversation up and to have some answers, honestly, for me, I think that is the mover in this whole subject because I just think, and I mentioned it to you earlier before we got on camera, I think very often parents have the intention. And I'm
Totally.
going deep here because I know so many, I personally know people that are caught in this. And there's nobody that really just pulls the band-aid off and talks about this. And that doesn't help either. They're just waiting, waiting, waiting. And meanwhile, had they known it's not going to turn out, or had they just had the courage to get a plan, have the
Yes.
conversations, it could have ended different. They could have bought their own land, their own cattle, started their own farm instead of waiting, waiting, trusting, which we do. We see our
Yeah.
parents as the gods that they were when we were growing up, right? Oh, they got a plan. Anyways, Patty,
But
sorry.
also,
This
but
is a
no,
hot
this is
button.
important. This is really important because parents intentions, like good intentions,
Yes.
they really do. And I would also
Yes.
say they are doing their best. I
Yes.
genuinely believe most often parents are doing their best.
Yeah.
So in the book, in this particular chapter, the way that it's patterned throughout the book is that there's action tasks that come up that the mentor is assigning to Jordan. So Kelly's assigning to Jordan as they work through all of these topics. So you can do that. The readers can do this themselves. So in chapter 3, get to the end of the list of assumptions. We're touching on 5 of the 9 assumptions today, and go through it with your parents and read it. Here's an assumption. Is this an assumption we're making? Is this actually true for us? If yes, what are we going to do differently? If no, we can go to the next one. And so, just like I said, it's being in second person in its story, it's safer to talk about it. We
Ooh.
can bring this back home and hold it up as a mirror and think, is this us? Because if it is, we have an opportunity to do some work on this or maybe get some help.
Yeah.
So that would be my hope for sure.
Okay. Thank you for letting me go there. Sometimes
No, at all,
when
that's fine.
when I find that spot that I personally know or see in families that
Yeah.
I know, I just want to make that point because I think that one right there is like the secret sauce for a lot of farm families.
Completely. We assume that there's a plan, and
Yeah.
we are being respectful and trusting our parents that they're going to reveal it to us, that it's some kind of secret thing.
Yeah.
And the reality is they're trying to figure it out. And it is very complicated. That's the other reason it gets paused, is for them to try to anticipate their own personal future needs in terms of retirement, if they plan to do that, their desire to balance amongst heirs. There's a lot of moving parts, and honestly, the cows keep needing to get fed every day. The crop still needs to get seeded every spring, and so time marches on, and they somehow think that the answer is going to dawn on them one day.
Yep.
Like, I had a gentleman who I sat down with, and he had a file folder full of articles. He's like, I'm going to come across the idea.
Yeah.
And I'm like, your son has been farming with you for 35 years. Has he proven that he's worthy for this? And he goes, yeah, I guess so. Like, he just hadn't been aware of holding his successor in limbo.
Yes.
And we have this opportunity to say, hey, this successor is actually a partner in this business, and we don't have to figure this out in isolation or alone. We can figure it out together.
Ooh, love it. Thank you for going there. That was powerful. Okay. As much as I want to talk about point 3 for about 5 hours, we're going to move on. Oh, okay. So this builds on it, kind of same vein. I have known my family members my whole life, so I know what they're thinking. We haven't talked about it, but I know we share the same vision, goals, and desires for the future.
Another one of chills. Like, if I had $1 for every family I sat with, where one or more members said, well, this is what the other person wants. maybe they're not in the room, for example. Like this one, I'm talking to you and you're guessing what your partner thinks
Mm.
or what your family member thinks. And and they'll say, this is what they want. I'm like, oh, really? How do you know? I just know. Have you talked to them about it? Well, no. It's incredible to me, these assumptions that people are just, filling in the blanks. The power of coming together and being able to have a common conversation. And this would be an example where having a third party in the room, having a coach or facilitator who can give every person a voice and question ambiguities is magic.
Yes.
Because in a family, you'll say, like, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know what you mean. I don't have a hot clue what you're talking about. Or they just stop talking, or they have really short answers, or don't answer at all. We have this beautiful thing to unpack. We all think we're pulling in the same direction, but lo and behold, we're not. I can think of another example. I'm sitting with this group and two brothers that had farmed together for decades. This is quite a long time ago, but in that conversation, so one of them says, yeah, this is the job on the farm I hate. And the brother looked at him and said, you're kidding. That's my favorite job.
Mm.
They did not know.
Yeah.
These are simple, simple things that create rubs. And that's just in everyday. But thinking about the larger picture, they could be aiming the same direction generally, but it's just a little bit off. And so it doesn't reveal itself until later in the game. And then it can be really painful. And so talk about it. What do you hope for? What do you envision? What do you wish for? What do you not wish for? And that's another thing in the book. There's lots of questions of that nature. Really paint the picture, focus the binoculars as clearly as you possibly can, and do that with each other and honor it with each other. Because it doesn't always align, and it's important to figure that out sooner than later.
Isn't it funny how many assumptions we make in the relationship so close
Oh
to
my
us?
gosh.
Yeah.
Well, and I was just telling you, I was just listening to a message from Simon Sinek, who he has such a wealth of knowledge. And the quote that just was very relevant for today is that assumptions drive behavior.
Ooh, powerful.
So when someone is acting out of sorts or contrary to what you would hope, or feel like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't what we're trying to achieve. Back up the bus. What are the assumptions? What are you actually aiming the same place? That in families, we tend not to unpack it. We just tend to, like, rip each other a new one and, go our separate ways in that moment. Oh my gosh, this is nuts and bolts of good function, and there's work to be done.
Isn't it amazing? I truly believe to solve most of the world's problems, let alone farm family transition, if
Yeah,
we could have years of our education just committed to communication, I think the
completely.
world would be so much further ahead. Relationships, everybody, wouldn't it? It's just, it
I
is what makes the
I
world
was
go round.
I was in an Uber in Halifax a couple of weeks ago, and Gil, the Uber driver, so wise. Like, he was like very strategic in his and how he was setting up his life. He's actually a mechanical engineer, but he's doing other things to be able to
Yeah.
build his so he can be independent in his life and not necessarily have to work all the time. But he said this. He's like, education is the answer to every problem.
Mm.
That's what this is. It's level setting, understanding, and educating what are clearly missteps that we keep tripping on. And not just you got to communicate, but what does it sound like? What circumstances is it going to work best on? There's a lot of the future leader that plays out those scenarios so we can see ourselves and say, hey, you know what? This is hard, but I think we can do this. I think we can build this muscle. And I think we have to.
I love it. I just thought of the main character for your next book, Gil, the Uber driver from Halifax, and his wise thoughts. He's going to be your, yeah, isn't that, wouldn't it? You hop into the cab with Gil and he shares some business strategy, something
Yeah.
like that.
It's true. Like, I learned so much from him, and I think that we have that opportunity in life. We can learn so much from each other, and yet from our family members, we tend to go even less deep than we would with a complete stranger.
Yeah,
It requires intention, and we need to practice it.
nice. Okay, number 3 is my favorite for Gen 2.
Okay.
And just knowing that. Now, number 5, this one I think is obviously great for both generations, but I see this as the power punch for the founders. Admitting that you don't know the answer means you're not smart. I think a lot of us go, okay, like you said, I'll figure out that plan. So I just wait,
Mhm.
I wait. Wait a minute, you're not going to figure it out. Take it away,
Yeah.
Patti.
Yeah. Admitting you don't know the answer means you're not smart. So we have like a culture, I would say, in our world of that kind of grandiose, I know everything, I'm the solution to everything, you can't tell me. And admitting otherwise is weak. And I would say the strongest people I know own what they don't know. And so I personally practice it in terms of reminding myself. And the saying I'll say often is, you could fill an ocean with what I don't know. I am very keenly aware that this world is so abundant. There is so much information. There are so many things that I can't possibly know it, but I'm going to be a student of it and pursue it. And so reminding myself that I don't know and making it safe for other people to therefore do the same. We can't know everything, so let's not pretend we do, is a culture you can create. And what it does is allows people to have a safe place to take risks, to have a safe place to make mistakes and own them. And if we were to change that assumption from this shows weakness to this actually shows strength, it would allow us to collaborate better as families and businesses in order to figure out this incredibly complex but beautiful thing.
Oh, nice. Well said. I find myself too. It's that vulnerability. I don't have to know it all by any means, but I could see how, why do you want to admit that you don't know what to do, that you
Mm-hmm.
don't have a plan, that you don't know how to transition? So then you keep it closed, right?
Yeah.
And another year passes. And then, well, and you know, the part I don't like about that, Patty, is because there might not be free communication, the
Mm.
resentment builds up. The elephant in the room. How many
Yeah.
farm
Well, that's the
families do we know like that, right?
and that's the destruction of hope, right?
Yeah.
When hope is removed from the equation. And I would say that that's one of my core beliefs is that hope is a critical ingredient. You have
Mhm.
to believe this is possible. And if that has been removed from the soup, it will only be better. Ooh, I should write that down as a t-shirt.
That's a good one.
The other thing about admitting we don't know the answer is it's influenced by professionals in our industry. So often, and I'm not picking specifics, but as professionals, as advisors, we feel obligated that we have to know the answer.
Mm,
And so we deliver it, even if it's our opinion, as opposed to necessarily, the rule or the law. And so we'll say, do this or do this. It's very directive, as opposed to, you could do this, or here's a consideration. Simultaneously, in our profession, we can get so hooked on language, we can make our clients feel less than. We
mm.
can make them question their own intelligence. And I think it's critical. And I will repeat this ad nauseum. These are intelligent, caring family business owners. They've just never done this before.
Right.
So I never want them to feel that I'm questioning their ability in terms of capability or in terms of intelligence. They have knowledge well beyond anything I will ever know. But I'm going to tell them that this is something that's new territory, and them owning what they don't know and what they know will be helpful and set an example for their whole team.
I love it. Okay, I picked my 5. There are
Yeah.
more in here and many chapters of amazing information. So, to close the episode, to wrap up the episode, let's say there is a successor that is in the audience. Let's speak to the frustrated ones that are 10 years in, 15 years in.
Mm-hmm.
They're either not bringing the conversation up, it's getting ignored, whatever it is. What you're sitting down with that person right now, what would you tell them other than get the book, speak to that person?
Yeah. My first thought is you can do this,
Mm,
and also only you can do this.
mm.
So it can be misinterpreted that this is something that has to be done for you. But in fact, your leadership happens and your behavior of leadership doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter what you own. It doesn't matter what your income is. It's about consistently coming back to the table, consistently working to learn, opening conversations with curiosity, and continuing to make baby steps, continuing to make progress. And so I want to deliver hope. I know that these successors are capable. And I don't think that as a rule within the industry, we are giving them the tools and encouragement to go after it. You have this operational opportunity, but you can develop yourself into a leader and you don't have to wait for anybody to do that.
Ooh, powerful. If someone is in the audience and they would like to grab the book, how can they do so? How can they connect with you? Do you coach families one-on-one?
I
Speak to
do.
that
I
as
do.
well.
Yeah. So my time is divided. Probably about a quarter of my time is spent with business families in one-on-one sessions. And I'm at capacity for the year already. So I apologize because that's not but I don't have a cloning program, I've realized. So I have to be really cautious about that.
Yeah.
But then how do I help more people faster? So podcasts like this, the book, and putting it into people's hands. And so that's available only through my website. So www.thefutureleader.ca. So that's for the print copy. Amazon, there's a Kindle version, and it's also on Audible, so the audio version. And I will say, I just heard from a successor here who listened to it in the cedar. He was driving the tractor. He listened to it. He said, "Oh my gosh, there were so many good things." And he called in, or he went in and ordered 2 copies for his parents.
Nice.
And that's what I'm finding is families are like, "Oh, if we read this together, it becomes kind of this process we can work through and again make safe conversations." That has been really powerful. So I'm also on stages. So I speak at events. I lead workshops. I'm training not only families as groups, but also advisors in the industry. We have lots of advisors who kind of work on the fringes of succession and it scares them. And I'm here to tell them that they can be an encouraging voice. And I give them some tools to do that. So I just want to change the world, Tracy.
Oh, Patti, I was just thinking, you took the words out of my mouth. I just love you and the work you're doing, your heart for farm families, family business. Truly, if I haven't said it enough, this right here is what's going to save families and family farms. It is. It's not a tax plan. It's this work in this book. So thank you.
It's a piece of the puzzle that was missing. I think that
Yeah.
in our advancing in our industry, you're welcome. In our advancing in our industry, if you think about kind of the legs of a stool, this communication and relationship and family dynamic leg has not been lengthened or changed in a really long time. And it's creating a tipping point for people. And this is about strengthening that leg of the stool and saying, you know what, we can do this. We are capable, we are strong, and we care. And so I just want to put it in their hands and let them run with it.
Well, and you know, Patti, you spoke about timing and progression. What perfect timing as well. I mean, 30 years ago, we weren't ready for this. And
Yeah.
right now, we're in the great farm transition.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect timing, right?
Thank you. I'm optimistic and I can't wait to hear what people think. I love the feedback. So bring it on.
Perfect. I will put your contact information in the show notes, links to where they can buy the book. Patti, thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you a million times over for the work you're doing.
It's a pleasure. It's very meaningful and I care a lot about it. So I can't wait to see what comes.
I love it. Thanks, Patti. You guys in
Thank
the
you.
audience, if you enjoyed this episode, buy the book. Binge watch the other episodes I've done with Patti and just dig in. You are the future leader of your farm. You can do this, and we'll see you on next week's episode. Bye, guys.
You've been listening to Impact Farming. For more great episodes and articles designed to help you manage and grow your farming operation, head on over to farmmarketer.com. Don't forget to sign up while you're there. We will see you on the next episode.